Okay, and we are live. We are going to be talking about HBO's Watchmen tonight, and it's basically going to be me having a conniption fit and her laughing at me.
Okay, explain Watchmen to me one more time, because from what I understand from the show, it's about a black female empowerment and that white people are bad. So that's what the comic's about?
No, it's not.
I can hear you
Really
broken
not.
inside.
Yeah. Hi, Jim. Fuck you too, buddy. Trust me.
Oh,
Watchmen
honey.
fucked us all, and not in a good way.
This was only funnier because I know very little about Watchmen. So it turned into me constantly going, did this happen in the comic? And just I think that was the
Did
only
I
thing
ever
keeping
say
Mike
yes?
sane.
Did I
Yes,
ever
to the
say
giant
yes?
squid.
Okay, yeah, okay. The giant squid was the one thing I said yes to. Everything else I said no.
I think I was the
So
only
many
thing.
times.
At some point, I just started doing it to keep him sane.
Episode 9 was where I just I think what was it near the end of that is when I actually broke down laughing not in a funny way.
Yeah, at some point you gave the fuck up. And I think that was when that was Jeremy Irons going full Christopher Lloyd, and it's just going, because once I told you and you noticed it, you couldn't stop laughing at it. Because I can totally see Doc Brown going to Jupiter or Uranus or whatever the fucking planet he was on. Uh-oh. Mike? Damn it, Mike, it's only been a minute and you're dead? Back. Your avatar is outdated. He does need to change it to Lube Man. Hello? Mike? I promise to be good. Come back. Mike? Oh. Does this mean I'm in charge of the... Wait, can everyone hear me? Yes! I now run Mike's channel. I am the Rorschach. What does that mean I'm supposed to do? Hi. Hi, everyone! Go spread the word about the stream! How is everyone... So what does that mean? I'm now Rorschach and I don't have a Rorschach image. Oh, shit. Thank you for that. Am I supposed to do something as Rorschach? I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do.
Arg, okay, my internet decided it wanted to take a crap on myself.
Darn it, I can't be Rorschach anymore.
No, I didn't hang myself yet. Chat, I did not hang myself yet. I'm still here.
I was gonna steal your mask.
Not my face.
Be an Irish drunk Batman? You want me to be Black Canary from Frank Miller's Run?
The sad part is that's completely accurate.
Yeah, it is. Irish fucking bitch ninja. Which, okay, I'd be okay with seeing her in the Birds of Prey movie. I'd be down 100% with seeing that Black Canary.
Yeah, they're not that smart, unfortunately. They're saying that is going to have the lowest opening of any DCEU film to date.
Did Vash show you how some of the stands came after me?
I don't think he showed me specifics.
Yeah, some dude tried to compare Huntress's costume, like before she becomes Huntress, to the one that Daredevil used. And a lot of people,
The
because
first
he didn't
costume that he used, the
black
sock
costume
thing.
Yeah. And like a lot of people said it, because he made it sound like the costume that Daredevil used in the show, pre-red costume, wasn't something from the comics, and everyone basically went, read a comic. So I said that. So he started retweeting everyone that said that and being a snarky asshole, and his fan base would jump up and go, "Yeah, he's right. Go fuck yourself. He's right." So, and I literally said in my thing that the big difference is I'm okay with Huntress before she gets her costume, but the costume she's wearing just kind of seems off, and the whole vibe of the movie really doesn't feel Birds of Prey. So they took that to me saying Huntress isn't allowed to have a costume before she becomes Huntress. And I just looked at that and I go, okay, yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. Yes. What is with the fucking feeling?
Congratulations. Twitter is still full of dumb shits.
Yeah, I
So,
just stopped. I
but
just muted the combos and stopped answering. I let Vash have his fun because I knew he was going to.
oh, he just let him go when he's on Twitter. It's like it's like releasing an animal into the wild.
I literally showed it to him, told him I'm muting it, have fun. And he was laughing at them because I was like, I can't be bothered with them because they're idiots. Because I was trying to be civil with the guy. Like I even said, I get what he's saying, but I think he used a wrong analogy for it. Since Daredevil's was canon in the comic and stuff, and the guy came back bitching at me, and I'm like, you don't know. Oh, my favorite one was the guy that said, nope. And this is my favorite one was when one of them. This is an actual analogy somebody said. You guys didn't bitch when Snyder had Superman outside of his costume.
Oh God.
Um.
Just go in the Twitter corner. Just turn your head.
I looked at that and I went,
Cham, God damn you. Cham, get back to work.
Cham, go do your job.
Cham. I didn't say you had to do it correctly. I just said you had to go do it.
Yeah, if you're not subbed to Mike, sub to him. Also, I've noticed YouTube is now randomly subbing me to random people, so I would say everyone should check their sub list because I had to unsub to 8 different people today. I'm like, who the fuck are these people?
That's actually kind of interesting now that you mentioned that because I haven't checked that yet, but I don't think I've gotten any notifications.
I didn't even get notification. I just happened to be looking for somebody that I subbed to that had been making videos that, YouTube's not putting in my sub box. And I noticed all these people I've never heard of. And then I'm looking at their content and I'm like, none of their content is something I would watch.
If it's one of those things like if it isn't broken, YouTube will break it somehow.
And if it is broken, YouTube will make it worse.
Exactly.
So you're not getting out of this conversation.
No, I'm not getting out of this goddamn conversation. Okay, so back to Watchmen. So I think probably the best thing to do is we'll break down the specifics a little bit later, but just like right now, so because there's going to be a much shorter list. What did we like about it? So what did you like personally about the show? Not in context with the comic, anything like that. Just what did you enjoy?
Lube Man. And what was it? Was it Hourglass? Mirror Man? What the hell was his name?
Hourglass is Mirror Man. I can't remember the damn actor, but he's been in a bunch of Coen Brothers stuff.
I liked both of those characters. I wish we could have had more Lube Man. I liked believe it or not, I actually liked the acting from a lot of the actors. Like you can tell up to the last episode they were giving it their all.
Well, you had some classics in there. You had Lou Gossett Jr. as the grandfather. The woman who plays the Angela Sister Knight character is not a bad actress. I think she was committed. I think it was just a problem with the material. Don Johnson was in it, even though it's only for kind of like one episode. So
Jeremy Irons was
he's still kind of good in it. Jeremy Irons was just having a ball.
I like Sister Knight's outfit, and I honestly think she'd be a good comic book character if you got a good writer for her and you took her, made this shit non-canon or most of this non-canon. I kind of would like to see her as a character in a comic because she had a really good design. And like I said, I liked her. I wanted to see her, other than her being halfway through it being retarded as a detective and stuff, like the stuff a detective actually wouldn't do. I think she'd actually be a really good character in the DC verse if they gave her a whole new writer and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, she fits that street level hero type of role that DC likes to have. With the people that are like regular people, but they dress up and they know martial arts and stuff, and they beat the shit out of people.
Especially because she's got kids, and you could do a lot of really great things with her, trying to separate, the family life from the super. I think they could do a lot with her if DC just made her own thing. Even bring the actresses back for a whole different show and stuff.
I could, but. You're right, but I don't know because again, this is kind of the weird thing when you jump from one kind of medium to another. Is that I don't know if HBO would retain her character rights, so they wouldn't be able to use her in any of the DC comics because there's weird barriers there with certain things. Like Star Trek had that going on for a bit.
Yeah, I like I said, I would like to see it. It probably won't ever happen, but she was a good character. Just design wise, I really enjoyed her. The costuming for the show was actually really, really good. Not the makeup, the costuming.
Yeah, the makeup was not good, especially that last episode. There was definitely some bleed over on Asian lady's face. But I like most of the costume designs. The Sister Knight costume design is pretty good. I like Hourglass's costume design. A few other ones that are kind of sprinkled in there. Lube Man's just hilarious on his own. So the fact that he just carries around a utility belt that is just filled with condiment bottles filled with lube is hilarious in and of itself.
Apparently, even the director calls him Lube Man now.
Well, there's no name for. They never give him like a superhero name in the shows. I mean, I guess you might as well let the fans.
And like the worst part is, apparently, there's this whole story with him being fired from the FBI and stuff that we don't even get to see, where he becomes full vigilante.
And I'm like, they cut that whole thing.
They didn't even film it. Like the director's like, I came up with this afterwards, and we're like, son of a bitch, couldn't that have just been the ending? That was awesome. That sounds a lot more entertaining. Just him sliding, like he even said in an interview that apparently he was sliding around in the sewers during the whole thing. And I'm like, I would have paid to see that.
Yeah, that's the other thing is they never elaborate on that character. Like you had to look up that character was the same, the FBI assistant or whatever. We never got to really see that character again, and we never really understood what information he got during his little like spy session and how that influenced the plot. He's literally it's something random that just appears in the middle of the show. It's hilariously awesome, but it's never touched upon again.
Yeah, like we were just kind of laughing our ass off when he showed up because we had the same reaction Sister Knight has, because we were going, what the fuck? And then she goes, what the fuck?
Ironically, it's a very similar reaction to when we had Dead Grandma in episode 9 or 8.
Oh yeah, that's when you just that's when you broke. That's when you broke.
Yeah. That was like one of those things, like, why was this scene filmed? Like, there's no point to this.
Honey Chat, I'm gonna take you home. Why the fuck were you even here?
Yep.
Did they have to pay for the actress for one more day? Was it in her contract?
Maybe. I mean, that was a different actress. That's the only time we see the old lady actress. The other time we see her is when it's a younger version of the character.
The same actress in older makeup?
No, I don't think it was. I think it was a legitimately older woman. I don't think it was the same actress in both scenes. Either that or the makeup was extremely good for that one day.
I have a feeling a lot of the makeup was bad because I think they did that whole thing with really long filming and didn't do a lot of touch-ups.
Yeah.
Because there were some points when like Dr. Manhattan looked pretty good, and then there were other shots where it was like, somebody want to repaint
you can see like the blue paint like rubbing off of his hands and stuff. Like that was kind of cheapo, but like for the most part, the production value of the show is very good, which I expect that from HBO. But that was really kind of covers like most of the good stuff about the show is really Lube Man, Hourglass, and
do we want to talk about your reaction to the first major Watchmen thing that was shown in it?
Which the airship?
The Archie 2.0.
Yeah, because that's the other thing is like, so anybody out there. The killing Dr. Manhattan. We'll get to that. Trust me. We're going to have to go over the travesties that they've done to all of the original Watchmen characters that are in this. But yeah, when they show the Archie, the Archimedes, the Night Owl's little like airship in the first episode, I'm like, oh, so does he just show up now? Is that like his thing? And then I realized, like, oh, Don Johnson's flying the ship. Like, how did the Tulsa Police Department get their hands on a flying owl ship?
So this is apparently,
how does this happen?
This is one of those things where there's a whole bunch of backstory, and instead of doing like a prequel comic that goes with this, or like a book or something like that, they didn't do that. You had to read interviews with the director, which that's a red flag right there. So apparently, he became rich and famous. He gave all of his tech to the government to use for the police to use, and then he went out as a vigilante again and got arrested. Because that's what you do. And I'm not kidding. That's the actual storyline.
And actually, that's the first travesty of the show, because one of the main characters of the original Watchmen, and they bring back multiple main characters from the comic book, he's just entirely just written off the show off screen and never appears in the show at all. Dan Draper as Night Owl never appears in the show at all. He's just off in prison somewhere, and he never shows up. They do show us Laurie, the second Silk Spectre. Obviously, they show Dr. Manhattan and Ozymandias, and I think that's it for the original Watchmen.
No, we do see the original. Okay, we see the original Hooded Justice.
Oh, we see the Minutemen. We see the Minuteman.
No.
Which was Hooded
this
Justice.
is what they did. They showed the original Hooded Justice, and this is a scene that made no fucking sense. They show him. They show what he looks like outside of the costume, and then they make it into like the back of a jacket, and they kill the dude who's wearing the jacket. And there's supposed to be some kind of investigation with that dude. And it looks like that's going to lead to something. And then they never fucking bring it up again. So that investigation...
I can't remember. Was that the TV show? Was that the TV show they had on the...
They showed him in the TV show. Then they showed his actual comic book image of him outside the costume as the strongman.
Yeah, exactly.
On the dead guy in the water. And it wasn't part of the show. It was like some important investigation, but...
That's just like one of those things like, it's here for reasons.
They were like, yeah, this is what he looks like, by the way. We're just going to kill him off now.
Yep, pretty much.
So I don't know if he was supposed to be the actor or what. Like, they never... It felt like there was a whole part of that show cut out.
It felt like that... If that one particular felt like a middle finger to people that were a fan of the original character, I guess, even though the original character really has a bit part in the original Watchmen comic.
Which
He's
is
literally only mentioned in passing a couple of times, and you see him in flashbacks. That's it.
Could that be why he was the major role in this? Was because he's such a bit player, they could actually do more with him?
I think that, and I think it had a lot to do with the costume and the imagery of the costume, because that's what they wanted. They wanted the noose and stuff like that, the lynching
which
thing.
Made it so much funnier, honestly.
Yeah, well, it made it weirder, and then also the fact they put a black man in whiteface, that was interestingly weird.
Like back in the 1940s, how much damn makeup would they like to have him look like he was? Because they show the news and
enough to get lead poisoning. Enough to get lead poisoning.
Because they show him like in the shows for the Watchmen, because they have that Hero Unmasked or whatever they call the show on the show within a show.
Yeah, they had
He's
like
a full-on white guy.
Their reality show or whatever.
He's supposed to look like the white guy in the comic for Hooded Justice. So that means his face in the mask looked white enough that they actually thought he was white. Holy crap, that was a lot of makeup.
Yep.
That dude didn't live
Might as well just smear plaster of Paris on your face.
Yeah. That was so bizarre to race change characters like that. They could have just made a new character.
They could have, yes. They could have very easily just made a new character, but that would have been too difficult because all their other new characters are so bland and tasteless. So that kind of covers the good stuff. So why don't we just go through kind of the characters that appear in the show, big and small, and then go through kind of like how they managed to fuck it all up. So starting with the originals, Silk Spectre, who's Laurie Blake. Now that's the first thing that threw me off, and I told you this when we were watching it because they don't really clarify it that much in the show. Is Laurie Jupiter is her birth name because her mother was Sally Jupiter. She was the first Silk Spectre.
Which I think the only person that calls her that is Ozymandias.
Yeah, I think he's the only one that calls her. Yeah, I think he is the only one that says that, like in near the last episode. And then but the thing is, her mother was raped by the comedian Donald Blake. Or actually, I can't remember his first name was Donald, but his last name was Eddie Blake. And then she finds out in the Watchmen comic that she is actually Eddie Blake's daughter. And it's like this soul-crushing moment because she only knew this man as somebody who raped her mom because it was in a tell-all book that another superhero put out. And so now she's using his name as her last name. That makes very little sense.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, oh, and she's like an ultra mega bitch for no reason who's apparently mentally retarded and we'll explain that with the last episode because that's when I think, another point where you gave the fuck up because you started yelling.
Yep. Well, because she became re-addicted to blue dick, it seems. But
Yeah, she did.
the that was even weirder, like, to me, because she had a whole story arc in the original Watchmen where she starts out with Dr. Manhattan, and the whole idea is like she's basically sleeping with God, and then for no reason you would think in your mind no reason she becomes attracted to Dan Drayberg, who's the second Night Owl, but he's older, he's like a middle aged, he has a dad bod essentially, and she gets attracted to him because he's more of a human being. He's vulnerable. He has emotions, as opposed to Doctor Manhattan, who's a very cold, like almost unemotional type of figure. And she
Who
goes
has
through this
that
whole
big
story arc
ass
where
dick?
yep, big ass swinging dick. That's why they made him black. And the whole thing is that she gravitates towards him for those reasons, and she grows as a human being throughout the comic. Now in this, it basically shows that she doesn't give a shit about Dan Drayberg because she basically just makes fun of him in a phone booth, and all she wants is to sleep with Dr. Manhattan again, and she's just a raging bitch because of it. And she hunts down other masked vigilantes for
She
the
also
FBI
sleeps
because
with
that
her
makes
assistant.
sense.
She also sleeps with her assistant, so she's nothing but a goddamn whore.
There you go.
It's really
You've done a
weird.
total 180 and reverted all the way back to before the first book took place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're trying to make her like a Commissioner Gordon type, except they don't really get why people like
Yeah.
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes, Commissioner Gordon is not a whore. I want to make that
I mean,
clear.
he can be snippy and stuff and make smart ass comments, but he also actually cares a lot, and you can usually tell. This bitch
Oh yeah,
just
she does
don't.
not give a single fuck.
Can I be your
Although she
assistant?
did.
You don't want to bang that, trust me.
No. You don't want to hit that. Just stay away. Although I did think it was really funny. Like, she had a couple of legitimately funny lines in the actual show, especially at the end when she is looking up and she thinks she's dead and she sees Adrian Veidt.
Oh yeah, and she's
Adrian's
like, "Ah,
supposed to be
shit,
dead.
am I dead?"
Shit, am I dead?
He's like, "Not
uh,
yet."
no, not yet. So she
No.
gave us a couple of laughs. Again, it seems like it was kind of one of those things like that. It felt like a niche thing for the actress. Like, that's just kind of what she's good at, is being a bitchy character. So maybe that was more of a choice there, because she doesn't change. Like, she doesn't change tone, she doesn't change attitude. She's always in that same attitude for
Because
the
she was
whole
probably told
time
to be
on
that
screen.
snarky smart ass.
Yep.
Very deadpan
Yeah,
smart ass.
exactly.
It's like if you're trying to be Dr.
doesn't
Manhattan, you're not doing a good job.
exactly, and that it doesn't work. So moving on from her, because they just reverted her character back and they butchered that whole character arc from the original book, and you'll be hearing me say that a lot repeatedly. They butchered the original Watchmen, or they screwed it up, or they demeaned it somehow. And then you go to what they've done with Rorschach, and this is the one that kind of it makes absolutely no sense, and again, it's never explained. There's a lot of I think you're right, there's a lot of stuff in the show that feels like it was trimmed out for time's sake.
Which, just do another do a comic or something to go in, because I'm curious about the stuff in between. Like, it did make me curious about what came between the first one and this one. Like, no matter how shitty this show was, there was some good ideas in it I kind of wanted to see. Also, I want to see how much more we can make you rage.
God damn you. So moving on from that character, then we go into well, actually, sorry, no. Explaining why they screwed up Rorschach is, so at the end of the original Watchmen, Rorschach leaves his journal in this periodical's news bin, or their mail bin, and they find it, and it's supposed to be kind of ambiguous. Like, do they publish it? Do they not? Because it proves what Adrian Veidt did. It proves that he destroyed New York City and stuff like that. And apparently, not only does the U.S. government somehow know about this journal, a random group of super racist people in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
So it's supposed to be it was
found
worldwide published, which it kind of contradicts because of what's said in the last episode by Lori.
Well, that's the thing, though, is that I don't think it was published. That's the weird part, is they never confirm in the show that it was like published worldwide or anything, because it doesn't seem like a lot of people know about it.
So you're just saying Miss
Out,
Asian Bayesian just got it or just lied and said that they had it, because they really didn't make sense in the show if we haven't made it clear.
yeah, they don't draw the line of like it, because that's the thing, is like there's no reason for this small group of people to have access to this, other than the fact that we find out at the end that they're kind of like a group that's involved with this very racist Southern senator, and maybe that's where they got it from. But it seems like somehow the government got a hold of it, at least, because the FBI has copies of it and stuff. So there's a lot of like strange little things where it pops up, but we don't know how this information got from point A to point B.
And another thing was, it seemed like they were starting out the first few episodes with it being a big thing. Then by the end of the series, they forgot that Rorschach and his manifesto was even in existence.
Yeah, no,
because
it
obvious
totally takes
Mirror
a back seat.
It's obvious Mirror Man read it. I think. I'm not sure. He might not have read it.
I don't think they really mention. They don't really mention it. The only people
Alfred
that
has the journal?
really mention Rorschach's.
Wait, does Alfred have the journal in the comics? That would be the safest motherfucker in the universe.
I think in Doomsday Clock he might, because Rorschach does meet up with Batman at one point.
To be fair, if you're gonna hide it with anyone, it would be Alfred.
Yep. He'll take your hand off. But they turned Rorschach into literally the Ku Klux Klan. Like that's what that's what they portray it as. It's a group of white supremacists that go around killing cops and anybody that isn't white.
Oh, what's it called? Super secret hidden racist or some shit they said in the show, and we just lost it laughing.
I think they do one of those really, like, Star Trek made it very popular, that idea where you say something really complicated and then somebody says a line that like dumbs it down to like average human level. But in this case, it's the dumbing it down is so stupid, you've dumbed it down to the point where it's like toddlers will understand it.
Watchmen babies?
Yeah, basically. Now, don't you deconstruct the crib with your magical powers, Little Manhattan.
I want that to be a thing.
Like
you couldn't need to be right.
Just like you couldn't do to the lithium cage.
We had to melt down so many batteries because that's the only way to get lithium. I wish that was a joke.
Was so stupid.
They don't actually understand where
like it would just explode.
Yeah. When he did the lightning thingy through the blood, I'm like, why the fuck can't he just transport?
Oh god. Yep. It didn't make any goddamn sense.
So what decade does the HBO Watchmen take place? 2019. They literally say 2019, so we have to both say current year.
It's current year. It's a complete jump. So then you go to Manhattan, and Manhattan, they made him the stay-at-home dad.
The actor was good.
It makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, the actor was good, but I don't think he wasn't playing Dr. Manhattan again, as we know him from the comic. He's playing another actor playing Dr. Manhattan. That's what it feels like. The whole thing is like Dr. Manhattan didn't go to Mars and say, I'm going to start life on Mars after the end of Watchmen. He was supposed to go to another galaxy or another universe.
I'm still completely positive this is just Dr. Manhattan wanting to watch like some version of the Watchmen universe explode. So he's like, fuck it, I might as well just chill out here.
Yeah, chill out here and allow myself to be murdered. Which, yes, they do kill Dr. Manhattan in the last episode, supposedly, and they set up one of the dumbest
gets
things
the best
I've
line
ever seen.
in the entire fucking series because of Dr. Manhattan.
Which line is that?
When Dr. Manhattan shows up as a black man, Osmodeus just looks at him and goes, now, John, this isn't the 80s anymore. This kind of thing would be problematic now. And he gets the biggest shit-eating grin, and we just started laughing because you could tell the actor just knew this was fucking stupid.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We'll get to Jeremy Irons in a second, too, because like he kind of saves the show a little bit in some senses. But with Dr. Manhattan, it's like, we mentioned the makeup problems before. Like, the actor that they have playing him again, he doesn't come off as Dr. Manhattan. He comes off as somebody trying to play him. Like there's too much emotion involved. They never explain. Here's the other thing: is like again for people that have read the comic, Doctor Manhattan kind of exists outside of time. He experiences most of his existence simultaneously. So like he's experiencing one thing at the same time he's experiencing another thing, even if it's 10 years apart. But in the show, it kind of sees it like, oh, the future. It's kind of like one of those things like, oh, I can see the future and it's going to happen no matter what. We can't change it. That kind of thing, almost like a Terminator type thing. And he has every opportunity to save himself from being killed, but he just chooses not to.
I told you he wants out of the damn universe.
I didn't think God
and
could commit suicide.
Osmodius can now seal Dr. Manhattan's powers away, which is I had to get Mike because I know a little bit about Watchmen. I have read a little bit of the comic a long ass time ago, and I did know a little bit about it. I had to get double check with Mike because I'm like, wait, can you seal his powers away? He's supposed to be God.
Well, that's the thing is like he doesn't. As far as we're aware, like this is something completely different that we've never seen before. That he can transfer his powers to people because he's never shown the ability to do that.
No,
and from
don't
what we
spoil that
understand of
part
his
yet.
powers,
Don't spoil that part yet.
No, I'm saying because the Asian lady wants his powers. But the whole thing is like John Osterman was literally ripped apart on a molecular level. He basically got his entire body ripped to shreds at a molecular level, and then his consciousness was powerful enough to reform his body in some sort of a perfect godlike form. You can't just pass that on. He literally constructed the body from the ground up to be what it is. It's literally his body that is the source of the power. He can't just pass it on into other objects. It doesn't make sense given what we know about him.
Big swinging blue dick.
Yeah.
And that
remember that inspired glowing blue condoms.
I noticed when he was a white guy it was a small dick. When he was a black guy it was a big dick. I kind of noticed that. I was like, what?
When he was a white person, I thought we only saw him as a kid.
No, we saw him really quickly. I thought. I have to watch this shit again. I tried to block out most of it. I couldn't. Okay, look, you can't help but notice that dick. Damn it. That is hanging the fuck down in those scenes.
And here's actually the funniest thing is when you think about it, because he had his entire body painted blue. Somebody had to paint his dick.
I guess we know why there weren't a lot of scenes with the dick showing. Why is he coming in a suit? Because fuck you, I don't want to paint that thing again.
He could have just put on his special underwear instead of walking around with that.
I love that we got to see somebody in that underwear. That made me happy.
Yeah, the super speedo. But yeah, Dr. Manhattan, they royally butcher, and they do one of the dumbest things with his powers at the end to kind of tease the second season, which apparently is greenlit, so there's more pain to come. But moving on from him, we go to Ozymandias, who's played by Jeremy Irons. And Jeremy Irons, and you pointed this out to me, and I cannot see it now, is Jeremy Irons is basically playing a kind of like a toned back version of Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future. Because he's just having a blast doing these wacky science experiments.
I would have paid so much fucking money to just be Christopher Lloyd because he would have dialed it up to 12. Like, it was basically, he dialed it up to 10. Lloyd would have dialed it up to all the way to 12 or 20.
Oh, easily. He just would have been zany from beginning to end. He would have been freaking out, running all over the place, waving his hands in the air.
You know who this
It would have just been such a hilarious show.
I finally figured out which character he reminds me of in this. It's Uncle Fester.
Kind of, especially in the speech patterns, actually, now that you mention it.
Like, he started out, the first few episodes, he did start out sounding like Scar and like his normal self, and then he just keeps going more and more insane. So it gets more and more into Uncle Fester, and I just started laughing after a while. I'm like, I want just the entire thing to be about him.
Yeah, again, that's kind of one of the other things, although they do explain it away a tiny bit, is In the comics, Adrian Veidt was very calm, very cool, very collected. He was one of those guys that like never breaks a sweat, and also extremely smart. Whereas, obviously Jeremy Irons plays it very cartoony, but they give a little bit of an explanation where like, okay, he's been stuck on this like in this like prison area for a number of years, and he's basically gone nuts
10
just
years.
staying there. Yeah, 10 years. So he's basically just gone nuts staying there. So I can understand maybe why he's a little zany. But even when they do the flashback scenes, he's still pretty eccentric and zany.
Yeah. And the whole thing, I'll get into it later with the Asian lady. And I'm not, we're not kidding. That's kind of what she's called for a while, because you don't really get her name for the longest
Yeah.
ass time. But
no, actually, no. We just didn't notice it. You actually get her name right when she appears, when she comes to that couple's house. They actually say who she is immediately. We just completely forgot, and then they don't mention it for another 3 episodes.
Actress was good, by the way. She plays a bitch really well. I kind of want to see her playing a psycho bitch more.
Yeah, although I will say the Christ anagrams at the end were a bit much.
That wasn't her choice. That was the director.
Yes, and Squid saved the day, by the way, just to air it out.
Squid number one.
Mm-hmm. And just to kind of go, so I think that kind of covers the original characters, and the new ones are really not good for the most part. We've already kind of gone over Sister Night, but I mean, you have other people from the quote unquote Tulsa Police Department, because almost the entirety of this show takes place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, for no other reason than because David Lindelof jacks off to Ta-Nehisi Coates, and he read a paper about that Coates wrote about the Black Wall Street and stuff like that, and basically that's supposed to be his recreation of that, and that's actually the opening shot of the film, which makes no sense, or the opening shot of the show.
Yeah, they try to connect it all, and they tried to do Batman like 2.0, and it's not funny. What actually happened in real life isn't funny. In the sense of this show, after a while, you get so sick of hearing about it, you just start laughing when you put 2 and 2 together that it's basically just the Black Batman.
Yeah, pretty much. But like even the stuff that's going on in the scene doesn't make sense, because it's just this little kid there watching this like black and white silent film in a movie theater, and his mom is in the back like playing a piano in this theater, and you're thinking like, okay, so they're gonna walk out and something's gonna happen or whatever. Then you start seeing the building shake, and then you realize there is actually a full-on war going on outside, complete with planes bombing buildings. And you're like, why are you just sitting in a movie theater watching a movie? Get under something.
Yeah, that was another weird part. Like, I get you're trying to, again, I wasn't kidding when I said Batman 2.0. That's, I think, what made it the weirdest, was it was just, you could have done so much more to connect him with this than just Batman. Batman. He's Batman.
Spider-Man. But again, yeah, the opening shot of it, and the opening shot, honestly, if you're gonna take the series as a whole, it does set everything up, because the opening shot is just black people being murdered by white racist people, and white people bad and black people not bad, and that's literally the entire series. So it does do a good job at setting everything up.
Although I think, actually, historically, I don't think they used planes, but I'd have to actually do some research. I did see Twitter talking about how this was a great recreation of exactly what happened, and I'm like, God damn, they really wanted that town deleted.
Yeah,
that was control.
I have no idea about the. I have no idea about the actual historical implications of, or not implications, but specifically what transpired there. But it's Hollywood. I just expect them to dial it up to 11 anyway. So even if it's overdone, I can still see it. Like, okay, every adaptation does that, and to some extent. But as you go through the story, the other problem that this show kind of has is that you don't really know what's going on until like the fifth episode ish, like
They're
around
trying to
that
do, what
area, is
was
when
it?
you finally get a hint at the actual plot of the show.
They're also trying to do that, what was it, 24, where they did different times going along at the same time, like different events. But they don't really
Yeah, although some of
separate
them
it
you don't
enough.
realize they are.
Like we got a whole episode where it was the grandfather's past. And I think it was like for the first 10 or 20 minutes we were laughing because we didn't know what the fuck was going on and it took us way too long to figure it out. We're like, "Oh, that's stupid. You really didn't set this up well."
Yeah, it's just like, oh, I chugged my grandpa's pills and now I can see the past. It's like, okay, I'm pretty sure that's not how that works. If you just chug an entire bottle of red pills, I'm pretty sure you just die. The elephant scene was weird. That was out of left field.
Yeah, apparently the Asian lady and the elephant were supposed to be a Hindu or something. God, her name is the
I
name of a
mean that.
god or warrioress who rode. I'm not kidding. I had to look this up because the director says it, and then you look it up and you laugh even harder. A warrior woman who rode around smacking people with her 3 foot long breasts. I wish to fucking God that was a joke.
Yeah, there's a lot of weirdness in this, and
I
most of
would
it
have
is
loved to
not
see that.
explained at
I would have
all.
loved to see that scene.
It's like
Not
when you wake
Christy
up from a
there.
drug overdose and you figure out your IV is hooked up to an elephant. Okay, that
Yeah,
happens.
she didn't have this.
Uh,
She had a freak out, but not as much as anybody else would have had. I would have been on the ground screaming.
I would have probably just been like, okay, why? I would have been more confused in that situation than horrified. I'm just like, obviously I'm alive, so it's not killing me, but like, why?
Do you want to explain what you thought the elephant represented, which made it funnier than what it actually represented?
Oh, see, I thought it represented Republicans. And I thought that this was somehow the way to get like old memories out of your system was to wash out the racism with Republican blood. I thought that was what the thing was, because this show is so heavy-handed. I didn't think they were going to actually try and get something obscure with that scene.
And then I bet you it's because elephants never forget. And I had to look up an interview with the director, and there were 2 parts to it. It was elephants never forget, because fuck you. And the second one was because Truo, or I cannot say her name, she rode in on an elephant, swinging her 3-foot breast. I'm not forgetting that. That's actually real. At the warriors that she fought. What the fuck? Why did you think that one was a good idea to bring up?
To go, mommy, why am I hooked up to Dumbo? That's a good question.
Why am I hooked up to Dumbo and seeing a lot of black and white shit?
That was like one of those other things too that I thought was kind of interesting. It's like, why didn't you just do a flashback episode? You could have just done a flashback episode.
They did a
TV
They
shows have
tried
done
to
that
be an
before.
artistic flashback episode. I will give him points
Yeah,
because
it's convoluted.
I like that they did it in black and white, only because supposedly before
Yeah.
the TV was in color TV was invented, everyone supposedly dreamed and everything in black and white, scientists say. So it was interesting to do it like that, but then again, we see in color, so Memories itself would have been in color. So I just broke your own shit, creator.
Yep. The other funny thing that I kind of found about that when they do that episode in the past is that like that dude encompasses, like he has all the check boxes by the time you're done with that episode, because he's a black guy who's dressing up like a white superhero to beat people up. He almost gets lynched. And then it turns out that he's also bisexual and he's having sex with another superhero. Apparently so good that this guy actually leaves him his mansion.
He pounded that ass good.
Yep, that was.
And we got to see it too. We started laughing.
Yeah,
It was the
this
funniest
it's explicit.
transition.
They don't cut away.
They
don't
twice they
There
showed us
wasn't even a
butt sex.
transition. Like they give you no indicators.
No.
That he
The
swings
second
both
time
ways
it was a
before
transition.
that.
Remember, the second time with it being actually him was a transition. It went from his wife to him
Yes.
fucking the dude. Remember?
Okay, yeah, you're right. It does.
It was. I just busted out laughing because the first time we get the butt sex scene, it was supposed to be from the TV show about the truth on the what was it?
Yeah, exactly.
And it transitions into butt sex. So you get that again later on, only black and white butt sex. And I'm just like, okay, does this director really like butt sex? Why do we keep getting butt
See,
sex in
that
this
that
series?
was the funniest thing, was that all I remembered that was that scene when the grandma shows up and starts talking to the granddaughter, and she says, "Did I have a grandpa?" And my first thought is that, oh god, she immediately flashes back to the butt sex scene and then goes back.
That would have been somebody needs to re-edit that scene just to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
no, chat, you heard it. You heard that correctly. They just they just cut the butt sex.
They just cut the butt sex. They do. Twice they do it. The first time
Yep.
you just kind of like fucking what? The second time it's funnier because you go from him talking to his wife to boom, you banging another dude. And then him going, "How'd you
Yep.
know I'm
Exactly.
gay?"
And then the other thing was that I thought was funny was like the wife leaves him with the kid, which is one of the funniest things, because like she's the one she leaves because she's pissed that he's a masked vigilante, but in reality she's the one that encouraged him to be a masked vigilante. It makes no sense.
Yeah, that was the weirdest part. Was at first it seems like she's gonna leave him because he grabs his kid and you think he's gonna smack him. But he doesn't get
Yeah,
to that point. He just tells him, no, like, you're not going to do this, which I get that. He doesn't want his son to go into this. So I get that.
that is
But
the
then
that is the one thing they don't go into in this show is like child abuse, which I'm kind of surprised at, because it seems like they go into everything else.
black guy abusing his kid. Oh, yeah, that'll go over well.
I was just talking about child abuse in general, but the actually no, technically, well, we haven't gone over Adrian Veidt's sperm fridge yet.
Oh, no.
That was interesting.
If we're going to bring up the kids, there was a throwaway scene that made no fucking sense. Their stupid little red herring scene. Where the boy or girl or whatever the fuck that thing was that sees the costume
Oh
is
yeah. When
making
he
the
has like
things
the floating
float when he's
toy,
building them. And you're like, oh, he's got
I think that might have
superpowers.
just been a toy. I think that might have just been a toy, because that's the other thing, is like they never go into any depth with the kids, other than the fact the kids are all adopted. They're not Manhattan and hers direct children.
Because Manhattan's not allowed to
Um,
have kids.
well, technically, his dick causes cancer.
Does
Although they
Spider-Man
kind
know?
of disprove, sort of like they kind of, well, they did it before Spider-Man Reign did it, but the idea in the original comic was that even though it was kind of disproven, Adrian Veidt actually gave a lot of people cancer to make Dr. Manhattan think that his penis and his presence caused cancer in the people that he loved.
How many people was
Um,
Manhattan banging?
well, some of them were people that he had sex with. Some of them were just like people that he knew in life and was around frequently, like his coworkers and stuff. He gave, they suppose Adrian Veidt gave them all cancer and framed Manhattan for it, even though Manhattan did not give them cancer. But that's kind of the running gag.
I'm starting to see why he sent him off to that planet.
Yeah, I don't blame it. That's also kind of weird why they have that conversation where like he's just like so happy, like, hey, how's it going? Remember that time when you blew up New York? Hey, you want to help me with my girlfriend? It's like, okay, like you're just a couple of bros now. Is that how this works?
It's weird. It feels like you could have
He
taken Watchmen out of this entirely.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that like you're right, and I think we mentioned this to each other a couple of times watching this. Is like you could remove the superhero or the Watchmen elements from this, and you would still have the same narrative.
Also,
Like
I'm still
it's
pissed
literally
Russian
like a
Cop didn't make
story
it.
with. I know that's another one too. Is like some of the superhero cops. We never saw
Captain
Panda Cop
Communism.
again.
Oh, I want to see Panda Cop was a good boy. I actually liked him.
Panda
Also,
Cop was
Captain
funny, but like,
Communism.
yeah, Red Scare was the Russian communist.
No, they kept calling him
And
Captain.
it's
I
like
heard a couple people calling him something communist.
I thought they just said he was a communist, but I thought his actual name was Red Scare.
Like, you know what they could have even done if they would have just made this after Watchmen and didn't put any Watchmen characters in it? It would have been fine.
Yeah, that too. It's like, again, like I know the only reason why they had Manhattan in the show. The only reason why they had Manhattan in the show was to have the stinger at the end. But the other characters, like, you could have replaced Laurie Blake with somebody else, or Laurie Jupiter, whatever you want to call her. You could have replaced Adrian Veidt. I can see him being in the show. It makes sense why he would be there. Jeremy Irons is at least fun, so I mean, I don't mind the fact that he's there. But yeah, pretty much everybody else who's related to the original could have been edited out. You didn't have to have anything involving Rorschach or the journal. Maybe the journal a little bit if you want to do an actual explanation. Also, for some reason, Robert Redford is president, and that never gets explained. And he never appears in the show either, which I find kind of funny.
I do laugh when Osmodeus goes, "He's still president," and I started laughing. I'm like, we don't even know why he's president.
That was funny because he's been president apparently since 1993 or 1992. But
I kind of hope season 2 has just Ghost Rorschach. I want Ghost Rorschach so badly.
That's the other thing is like, and I know a lot of people can disagree with me on this, and you can say Dr. Manhattan and Ozymandias and all those characters, they all make up Watchmen. But really, the two strongest characters in Watchmen were the comedian and Rorschach. They were the characters that they carried the movie 100%, and they honestly, that for the most part, they carried the comic book. And now you have those characters pretty much entirely removed. The comedian is mentioned, I think, once or twice in passing in the show, and he's never shown when they do the flashbacks of the past, which I find kind of interesting because I feel like Hooded Justice would have had a fun time beating him up, because he beat him up in the comic and in the movie when he tried to rape Silk Spectre. So, I mean, it would kind of make sense to have him in the past, but they never do it. And the whole thing with that, and then Rorschach, obviously he's dead. You don't need to have him have a presence like that where he's basically just turned into a KKK algorithm.
And have him be a ghost in the background. Have him be a ghost in the background, like, fuck you. Fuck you.
I live my life free of compromise. Do it!
It was very dumb. Also, getting an echo a bit on your mic.
So, it might be because I was a little bit close to a wall. Now, just to go over the actual main plot line of the show, and keep in mind this will spoil the ending of it, but I don't think anybody in the chat gives a shit. And if you do, mute me for 5 minutes. But the whole point is that Asian lady, who is apparently a trillionaire, who's also the daughter of Adrian Veidt, has figured out a way to manipulate the Rorschachs into capturing Dr. Manhattan using a cage made out of lithium batteries that he cannot escape from, in order to harvest him and implant his powers into her so she can murder all the world's racists.
This isn't a joke, by the way.
That is literally the plainest way that I can put it. Also, all the bad guys are evil Republicans, literally. That is the actual end game to this, and you don't even find any of this out until the 5th episode of the series, when Asian lady kind of gets introduced, and even then, you really don't know what the hell is going on. You just know that she is working with a very old Hooded Justice at this point, and they're orchestrating something, and there's other people that are involved. Also, I felt the grandpa forgiveness at the end was a bit undeserved.
Grandpa, I know you started all this shit, but why don't you just come home with us? It's okay. We forgive you.
I need a man in the house after you killed my husband.
It's so weird.
There were scenes in this show that made me laugh my ass off because of how stupid they were. When she bludgeons Dr. Manhattan in the head with a hammer to rip out the device that has. So this is how they introduced Dr. Manhattan into the series, by the way. There's an entire episode that shows the backstory of pretty much the main character, Angela, Sister Knight, and Dr. Manhattan, because they are married. And the reason why they are married is apparently because Dr. Manhattan decided he wanted to walk into a bar in South Vietnam, and sit down and just talk to this woman about how apparently they're going to be in a 10-year relationship that is going to end in tragedy, i.e., his death. And that's not how Dr. Manhattan's powers work. He doesn't, again, or I shouldn't say powers. That's not. He still operates kind of like a regular human when it comes to relationship. He doesn't just walk into a bar, sit down, and say, "Hey, you're gonna have dinner with me tomorrow night." It's like it's the same thing. It's like if he was to walk into a bar and walk up to a chick and say, "Hey, in about 3 hours, I'm gonna be smacking your face with my giant blue dick. If you don't believe me, wait 3 hours." It's that kind of a scenario, and they then jump forward and backward in time, basically show like how he becomes this character. And I don't have a problem with him making himself look human. That's fine. If I feel like he would have the ability to do that because he can change his body and stuff. What I have a problem with is them trapping him inside of a cage that's literally made out of lithium batteries. And because Dr. Manhattan can manipulate the molecular structure of objects, he can literally turn lead into gold if he so chooses. So why couldn't he just turn the lithium into nothing?
It was so weird.
And what is there's actually a famous line from the comic that the comedian says there's a scene where he shoots a Vietnamese woman in a bar, and afterwards he looks at Dr. Manhattan because Dr. Manhattan just kind of watched him do it, even though he kind of told him to stop. And he said, "You could have turned the gun into mercury, the bullets into steam, the bottle that cut his face into snowflakes, but you didn't." And it's the idea like he can literally do anything anything he wants to do to something he can do on a molecular level.
But he chooses not to do it.
Yes, I think because maybe he just wanted to commit suicide because living with Sister Night was driving him up a wall.
I don't really blame him.
God, and then again, all the Jesus stuff. And let's just go over the dumbest part of the entire show, which is actually the ending of it, where and by the way, as I explain this, none of this is a joke. So they have a setup in the episode where Manhattan and Angela meet in the bar where she says, "So you could put your powers into this egg and I could eat it and I could gain your powers." And he says, "Hypothetically, yes." The last episode, after he's dead, she comes back to the house. They had a fight. She threw a dozen eggs. There's one intact egg inside that crate of a dozen. And she literally puts 2 and 2 together. She goes outside, eats the egg, and then she's about to walk on water, and they cut to black. And I believe I remember I called it as soon as she went out with the egg. I'm like, they're gonna cut the black right when her foot reaches the water and leave it kind of ambiguous and stupid.
You kept saying it over and over again.
Yep, because it's painfully fucking obvious. So literally, Dr. Manhattan died, and now his wife, sort of slash kidnapper slash domestic abuse partner, because she bludgeons him with a hammer.
The effects for the death are pretty good.
Eats a magical egg and gains superpowers.
She becomes God.
Yeah, actually, the special effects for when she puts her fingers into his the gaping head wound that he has.
Oh yeah, she knew he was Dr. Manhattan the entire time, so everything could have been avoided.
Yep. And it's even funnier too, because like the whole idea of it, like, because the other thing is we have no idea what's going on with Adrian Veidt throughout most of the episodes, except that we find out that he's stranded on the moon of Europa. And the reason why he is stranded there is Dr. Manhattan created a biodome, basically, on Europa as like a Garden of Eden type thing. And he created these clones. Now, again, this is something completely random that makes absolutely no sense. Because we see Adrian Veidt getting clones out of a pond using lobster traps and then putting them in a clone microwave that grows them to normal human size instantly. Like, they should literally have the minds of infants, but yet they can't. And Dr. Manhattan specifically designed these people to be completely subservient. So the black Dr. Manhattan literally made slaves.
White slaves. White British slaves.
It's just literally slaves, and they're modeled after two people he saw fucking when he was a kid.
But apparently, he is now Christian because they gave him a Bible, even though they kind of inferred he was Jewish. So, Mazel tov, motherfucker.
Yeah,
Because that's how you do it.
Lime. Uh, yeah, no. Again, it's a
Lol.
very, very bizarre series of events that go into this, and there are so many. If we sat here and listed off the random shit that happened in this show that made absolutely no fucking sense or wasn't
Lube
explained
man.
for like 7 or 8 episodes, we would be
Lube
here all night.
man. Just lube man.
At least Lube Man was amusing to watch.
Just because the reaction of Sister Night was literally the reaction of the audience. What the
Yeah, everybody's reaction. What the fuck?
I don't think the actress was even expecting that, honestly. I think she's just, what the fuck am I chasing?
Well, I love the immediately following scene when she goes back to the police station and she's explaining it and everybody else has the same reaction. It's like, what? He just went into a storm drain?
I just wanted more of that scene because that was, if they would have just done that kind of shit and they kind of made it more of a comedy, I think I would have been down with the show more. Because the Lube Man is best.
Unfortunately, Watchmen's really not a comedy.
I don't know.
It's very dark and fucked up. I mean, it's a comedy in the sense that it's so pathetic that it's funny in this sense, but generally it's not supposed to be like that. But I mean, you had that stuff. You had the stuff with the old man. You had the stuff. The other one that was really weird was the flashback episode. Now, the flashback episode, they find out that basically there's this organization called Cyclops.
Oh, this part, yeah.
I don't know what Cyclops is in reference to in terms. I mean, I know obviously the ancient Greek, Cyclops, one eye, that whole thing, but I don't know if that's something to do with racism. Although now that I think about it, oh my god,
I kind of want to search KKK and Cyclops, but I'm afraid the FBI will come over to my house.
When they do the Cyclops symbol in the show, it's the OK sign on their foreheads.
Oh Christ! I didn't even catch that.
I just realized that.
It gets better. Do we want to tell them what the Cyclops plan was?
Oh, the Cyclops' plan? The Cyclops' plan was they figured out a way to weaponize light. So they put these, like, I don't know if it's special bulbs or something, or strobe lights in these film projectors that basically make black people kill each other in movie theaters.
So black people only get violent because of white people.
Yep. That's their message there.
Yeah, it's literally white people's fault that there's black on black crime. I wish that was a joke. They actually do explain it like that.
Yep. It's entirely how they explain it. And then somehow they managed to weaponize it into a flashlight, which Grandpa uses to make Don Johnson hang himself from a tree, lynching style.
We were like, we like this actor, and dead.
Yeah, I was not expecting him to die after the first episode. I mean, he comes back a little bit in flashbacks, but I wasn't expecting him to immediately go at the end of the first episode. And fuck the ending to the first episode, by the way, because they do what in the original Watchmen comic, the comedian has the smiley face pin, which is obviously it's one of the most iconic images of Watchmen, and it has the drop of blood on it from him. And in this, they do the exact same thing, except it's with a police badge. And it's like, oh god, that is don't do the smiley face pin thing with the police badge, please. Just stay away from that. But it's just there are so many things that just happen along the way that we have no idea what's happening. Also, the racism detector.
Oh,
I forgot about the racism
the fuck
detector.
Out of that.
It doesn't confuse me in terms of like how it functions. It confuses me in the fact that why do you have this?
Do we want to explain our reaction to it when we first saw it? Because it makes no sense when you see it. I get what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's a psychological thing, but that's not actually how it works. So what it is it's supposed to be your brain will react to certain things. It's how they originally did the test to figure out if someone's naturally gay or something. is, how does the mind react to seeing certain images? So in this, you sit in a room and you see kittens, you see flowers, you see people, then you see a swastika. Then you see a black
Yep.
man lynched. Then you see, and then
Yep.
it goes back to kittens and pretty things, and then another black
Yep.
guy lynched, and we're just like, what the fuck is going on? And they don't react in this. Like they come in and they talk and stuff, and they have like Lori come in and talk and stuff, and you're just looking, you're not paying attention to the combo. You're just like, what the fuck is going on?
The funniest part of that is the fact that she actually refers to it as a racist sector.
Which is
like she says that verbatim.
Because one of the big things they seem to forget is when they actually do tests like that, where they're trying to figure something out if you're lying or something like that, or they're trying to figure out what you're more attracted to and things like that, and those kinds of tests they've used, they have you set up to certain machines. This one, a dude just watches you and goes, I can tell he's lying. I can tell he's racist.
Like they don't even they don't show any kind of like readout from the thing. It's literally just like a video sphere that has like screens on the inside of it, and then you sit in there with a guy and he asks you questions. I've heard people describe it as like a racism void comp test. I could see that being kind of similar.
Yeah, I've seen these tests. They are an actual thing. This isn't how it's done, but I've seen them actually done for psychology classes and stuff like that. They don't really understand how they work, because it just makes me laugh, because you're like, kitten, puppy dog, flowers, swastika, more kittens, more puppies, black guy lynched,
abrupt.
Tiananmen Square. Yeah, Tiananmen Square showed up and we were like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I remember Tiananmen Square. I'm like, what the fuck does this have to do with anything?
Racism. What the fuck does Tiananmen Square... What? It gets funnier when you realize an Asian is in charge of everything.
Yep. Oh, so now should we jump on to Adrian Veidt's secret sperm fridge that's behind his desk?
Oh, and how genetics work? Yes, please.
yeah. So at the beginning of, I think it's the 8th episode, for whatever reason, we get an explanation of where Asian Lady came from. So Asian Lady, and I still can't remember her damn name. It's Lady Trio or Truo or something like that.
I think it's Trio or something.
So
I want to explain it.
She's literally stated as a trillionaire in the show. She's extremely rich. She bought out Adrian Veidt's original company, and he is presumed to be dead, even though he's on Europa or other places. And basically, she kind of the way that she came about, because she's his biological daughter, is apparently there was a housekeeper that worked at Adrian Veidt's Antarctic facility, again, a facility of Antarctica, and she
because
apparently found out that he had
Vietnamese people, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. That's another weird one. Again, they wanted to just have the connection to Vietnam, and so she apparently finds out that he has a secret sperm fridge that is behind a picture in his office, which normally you'd think of like, okay, maybe it's a safe for valuables or something like that. Like when you see her breaking into it, you're like, okay, maybe it's like, maybe he's got money in there or something, or, like a family heirloom or gold coins or whatever.
Just sperm.
No,
every
it's
time
just
you wax it.
Vials of cryogenically frozen sperm. And I forget what sample they say she came from, but it was in the 2000s. 461. Okay, I thought it was over 2000.
Man, he's been jacking it a lot then. I guess what else? I
don't know when it goes bad. But she then proceeds to take what appears to be a syringe gun, probably something that's used for artificially inseminating cattle, and then puts the sperm in it and injects it into her pussy, sitting on the chair in his office and saying, "Fuck you, Ozymandias."
It was so weird. I've got to be right back really quick because I got to go walk Miko. Can you continue without me?
Yep. Oh, I trust me. I can vent for a bit. I'm good.
All right, I'll be right back. Don't kill yourself till I get back.
I'll keep the news ready. So there's the secret sperm fridge. there's a whole bunch of things. There's a whole bunch of very strange things. So just I'm just going to do a quick little recap of the individual story elements as we go along, and I'm just mainly mentioning the random things. So we find out basically at the beginning of the story they have the setup where they set up the little kid who turns out to be Hooded Justice, who turns into this woman Angela's grandfather. Now Angela is a character called Sister Knight who is part of the Tulsa police force. Now they do an explanation of this, and again, this is extremely convoluted. It makes absolutely no sense. It really just is it's so they can have the story the way it is. So basically, Tulsa, a year before the events of the actual show, there was this moment known as the White Night. Again, yeah, you can. Where the Rorschach clan, who is known as the Seventh Cavalry, again, Custer's Seventh Cavalry, um, kill all the police officers in Tulsa, Oklahoma, except for two: Angela and Don Johnson's character, who's the police chief. Everybody else is murdered. That is when the governor of Oklahoma, or the senator, or something like that, makes it so that all of the police officers in the town of Tulsa have to wear masks and keep their identities secret so that they cannot be hunted down and killed like the others were. And the 7th Cavalry then proceeds to go underground. Now, we pick up in modern day, where basically they start finding the 7th Cavalry reemerges, and they start finding all this stuff. And you get to meet Don Johnson and his wife, and you get to meet Angela and her husband, who turns out to be Dr. Manhattan, although we don't know that again until like the 8th episode. And basically they go through like a little bit of slice of life, and they have this extremely funny scene in a school where the character of Angela is presenting something, and apparently the way this universe works is that they have these things called reparations, and basically it's government sponsored reparations for victims of the Tulsa massacre, and those that can prove their bloodline to it. And this little white kid stands up and literally says to her, because she has to keep her identity a secret, so she's masquerading as a baker, basically. I don't know why, I can't remember why she's in a school. And he says, "Did you open your bakery with all your dirty reparation money?" And he then proceeds to get destroyed by a right hook to the face by the person that was immediately next to him. And that's the opening part of this, right after the big massacre where a bunch of people are getting murdered. And then you progress through. You find out that she's a police officer. You find out that she's the Sister Knight character. You find a little backstory about that later, but then they go in and they start rounding up all these rednecks, and literally all the white rednecks in this town are in a podunk, crappy, like horrible trailer park that's on the edge of town. That's kind of like, I guess, Tulsa's ghetto in this universe. And they literally just go there and round up every white guy they can find, and they're all as stereotypical looking as you can possibly imagine. I don't think there was one of them that was not wearing flannel or a wife beater or both. And this is also when we're introduced to the racism machine. Or the racism detector, because they stick a guy in there, and it's so bizarre because, again, the Hourglass character, who's one of the only halfway decent characters in the show, comes out and says, he tested average on everything, but the prejudice meter was off the chart. It's like, how do you know? Like, is there something, like, again, is there something that's measuring the dilation of your pupils? So basically through this, they go through all these kind of loops. I don't remember half the shit that happens. Don Johnson hangs himself because of a magic flashlight. And then we find out that the black guy that claims that he's hung this guy is actually Angela's grandfather. She doesn't know him. And you get to kind of find out some stuff as we go on, where then Lori Blake comes in and she's trying to hunt down the masks and stuff, and bunch of things that are happening down in Tulsa, and figure out what's going on. There's squid rain. I forgot about the squid rain. Adrian Veidt causes squid rain. My brain is discombobulated just trying to remember the plot line of the show. But actually, you know what? Screw the episode synopsis, because I've gone over pretty much most of it already. But at the end of the actual series, at the end of when this happens, the Asian lady is about to get Dr. Manhattan's powers. So he's already been brutally murdered on a molecular level. Again, it shouldn't actually kill him, but for intents and purposes, he's dead. And he gets beamed into this massive ship called I think they call it the Millennium Clock or something like that, or the penultimate clock or something. Again, a play on the Doomsday Clock. And it's about to get beamed down, and Adrian Veidt has the idea because apparently in the end of the original comic book, a space squid is beamed into New York, and 3 million. According to this story, I would assume it would be more people, but according to the show, 3 million people were killed in the island of Manhattan, and in order to keep people thinking about the squid, Adrian Veidt literally makes it rain tiny little squids on random places around the world. And we see this in like one of the early episodes, and we never understand it until the very last episode or close to it. And basically, he does this to remind people that, hey, a massive telekinetic squid can fall from the sky at any time and murder us all. Remember that? And at the end of it, he comes up with the brilliant idea to freeze the squid before he launches them through his little like teleportation portal. And apparently it acts like a Gatling gun. And for some reason, it won't go through the top of cars, but it'll go through the Millennium Clock, which appears to be solid metal. And it murders Asian Lady. So Asian Lady is dead. And Dr. Manhattan's powers are presumably dispersed, I would guess, because they were stuck in the thing, but now they're not. There's a lot going on with this, and it makes so very little sense. And really, I think the only real enjoyment that we got out of this was more or less just making fun of the stupidity of what's been going on in the show up to that point, just saying like, oh, that's funny, like grandma dying, like that. When you say, oh, grandma died, that's normally that's not met with laughter unless you're a sick person. But in this episode, they literally have a scene where little Angela meets her grandmother because both of her parents get blown up in a NVA suicide bombing in Saigon. Because also, by the way, again, in case people haven't read the book, in Watchmen, the book, Dr. Manhattan wins Vietnam in a matter of, I think, 2 weeks. And so because of that, Vietnam never became fully communist. So they're basically they're a democracy. The entire state's a democracy, but people don't like that. So there was this suicide bombing that killed both of Angela's parents. So now grandma comes into the picture, and we only have one scene with grandma before grandma dies. And it's literally they're in what looks like a knockoff McDonald's. They're sitting down. Actually, it is a knockoff McDonald's, and I can't remember. It's like a communist McDonald's for whatever reason because there's like a big red logo with yellow on it. And they have a little talk, and then we have the scene like, oh, I want to learn about my family and stuff like that. And then she says, all right, we're gonna go and we're gonna do this. So she sits little Angela down in the back of a car, and you don't change the view when this happens, which is hilarious and funny and weird. And again, this is the first scene where she has interaction with her granddaughter, and she's walking, and you can see out the back window of the car that the camera is in. So you have Angela in the shot, and then you can see the grandmother walking behind, and the grandmother kind of slows down for a second. Then we're like, oh, what's happening to grandma? And then as soon as she starts to slow down, grandma literally just keels over like a dying cow behind this car. And she's done. She's dead. She just keeled over and died right there. Like, imagine that when you're a little kid. Like, oh, both of your parents died in a tragic bombing, and then you find out you have a grandma you didn't know. She seems like she's pretty cool, and then like half an hour after meeting her, she just drops dead on the ground, and it's just like, oh, okay, that's just like, why did this scene need to be here? Like, we could have just lived with the idea that maybe grandma died before she was born or something like that, but they had to have the scene with grandma dying for some reason. And it's not even done it's not done in like a tasteful manner. It's not like, oh, it's something tragic, like the grandma got hit by a car or something like that, or something happened, or she had like a heart attack and she had like some final words. She literally just dumps her in a car, walks behind the car and keels over and dies, and that's it. There's nothing climactic about it. It's actually kind of goofy when you look at it. It's kind of like one of those commercials that you see about the life alert things, like, oh, I fell and I can't get up. It's kind of one of those things. But it's so bizarre just sitting and watching this god awful woke train wreck. And here's the thing: I was expecting this to be bad. I watched the trailer. I had a very very bad reaction to the trailer, and I said, "This looks like garbage. This is probably going to be complete shit." Um, I was not ready for the levels of shit. Like I was thinking, like, all right, this is I was thinking messy toilet bowls levels of shit. Instead, I got used porta potty at a Grateful Dead show levels of shit. Okay, those are the differences that we're talking about at this point. Like, this thing is one of the most woke piece of trash things of media I have ever seen in my life. And I've sat through the movie Cuck. You people have watched me on this channel sit through that goddamn fucking movie. In fact, I sat through it twice. Both times sober, by the way, just in case anyone was wondering. And even that, and it's on levels with that. And it's stretched out to 9 hours because it's 9 episodes. And apparently people are enjoying. It's one of those things. Like, I think that people that have read the original comic probably think it's dirt, or at least people that like the original comic. Sitting Alan Moore down in front of this would be one of, if not the funniest things I could possibly think of to do with this piece of media, because I have a funny feeling he would like rip the DVD out of the DVD player and then just start eating it out of hatred. And then he would probably put a hex on me because he's kind of insane. But the idea is still there, and I would probably still get a kick out of it. But it's just this is one of those pieces of media that's just like, the only reason this exists is because this director has a really creepy fetish with black people. And I don't mean that in the sense like he just, because Dr. Manhattan has a big dick and stuff. I don't mean that. I mean, like, this guy has a really weird obsession with it, to the point where it's bled so much into the work that it makes the work creepy to watch. And again, I'm not talking about creep levels like, oh, it's just a lot of African American people in a show. No, like, I like Roots, I like stuff like that. There's been plenty. Cosby. I was gonna say Cosby Show, but I think I might get flagged for that because I mentioned Bill Cosby on the air, and because the show was good, even though he's a horrible human being. But this is different, because this is almost like you're not treating them as people, you're treating them as plot devices and objects, which is even weirder. And again, just all the other random stuff that's thrown in there just for the sake of throwing it in. The elephant, the sperm bank. Here's the thing. If you had halfway decent writing, you could just get around all these things that they've done. Hey, instead of having a weird person break into a sperm bank and inject it into their vagina right then and there, why don't you just have them have an affair with Adrian Veidt, and then they get the sperm that way, because that's how most people do it. Or maybe you could find a different thing that she wants to do instead of trying to murder and take Dr. Manhattan, because Adrian Veidt ripped him apart on a molecular level and then he put himself back the fuck together. It doesn't make sense. Don't have Dan Draper go to prison before the show even starts. Don't make Laurie Jupiter take her father's last name when she hates him and knows he's a rapist and a horrible person. There's so many things in this that could have been solved by just simple changes. And just not having random things. Don't have the woman hooked up. Just have her hooked up to an IV. Don't have her hooked up to a damn elephant, because that makes no sense. Don't hook people up with an IV to farm animals, or to any kind of animal for that matter. It's weird and fucking creepy. Okay, and the other thing is, nobody understands the elephant. Like, nobody understands the damn elephant. Purity had to look up what the elephant meant. Nobody who watched, if you watched that fucking scene and you understood what that elephant meant, the way he was trying to bring it across, then my God, you are a goddamn genius, because nobody else would have gotten it. The whole idea of oh God! You know what? I completely breezed over the fact. I completely breezed over how Adrian Veidt escapes from Europa, because that's even weirder. And that's, you know what? That's actually kind of a funny little twist, because Adrian Veidt basically finds, after he is basically depressed that he is, because Adrian Veidt exists in a little biosphere that Manhattan made on Europa, uh, and he wanted to go there. And the funniest part about it is that basically he was fed up with the real world, even though he had saved the real world from nuclear holocaust. So he decided that he wanted to see the utopia that Manhattan had created, and Manhattan literally beamed him immediately to Europa, and then he inputted a device into his fucking forehead that made him forget that he was Dr. Manhattan, so that he could have a meaningful relationship without knowing the future. And obviously, he forgot that he had put Adrian Veidt on Europa, so Adrian Veidt is just literally there going nuts for 10 years. It's one of those kind of strange, bizarre things. And then he finally manages to signal his daughter, the Asian lady, to save him, and she sends a ship, and they basically they freeze him in golden carbonite. That's the only thing I can kind of compare it to. Is like, it looks a lot like when Harrison Ford got frozen in carbonite. They freeze him in like this gold, like hardening stuff, and basically we then realize that he has literally been a statue in her garden for the entirety of the show. So everything that we've seen on Europa happened before the show even started, or before any of the early events that we see start. So Adrian Veidt has been there the whole time. And then in the last episode, she thaws him out because she wants him to see her become a god. And again, it's a lot. It's kind of really eerily similar to Han Solo getting thawed out of carbonite in Return of the Jedi. But again, he's like just a golden statue just sitting in her garden. It's like, oh yeah, you're just going to keep your dad in statue form. That makes complete sense. Again, it's very weird. I will say that, again, some of the acting was okay, and I really haven't gone over Hourglass all that much. He's actually a fun character, and he has a link to the original Watchmen that kind of makes sense. So the idea is that basically, in the original Watchmen, when they have the squid that beams into New York, it creates a psychic wave that like basically just blows people's brains out. Like they all bleed to death and die. They hemorrhage, and they stroke to death basically. Now, Hourglass's character was on the very, very, very outer edges of it, so he was affected by it, but he wasn't killed by it. And apparently, there's a whole group of these types of people that this happened to when the whole event took place. So basically, it gives them kind of this weird sort of PTSD where they have these horrid, horrid nightmares and they can't sleep. And it's because of the residual psychic energy that's actually in their brains. And it's kind of interesting when you think about it. And the reason why he has the reflective mask on is because that is actually absorbing the energy, the excess psychic energy or whatever from his brain, and it helps him sleep. So all of them wear it. Even when he's walking around in like a baseball cap, he's wearing it. Although I do find it kind of funny that it seems like it's kind of an anagram for a tinfoil hat. But it makes sense, and he's actually kind of a halfway decent character in the show. You know, he doesn't seem, he's paranoid, which again, obviously you would be. He's one of those. He's kind of like a doomsday prepper almost. He has like a bunker and shit in his backyard. I wish they had actually spent a bit more time on him, because his past was very interesting when we finally do learn about it. But again, one of the very, very few bright spots in this show. It's just, I still can't get Weaponized Nerd Rage to admit that there is a racism detector in the show. Every time I mention it, he's just like, I don't believe you. I can't believe you for my sanity. And I don't blame him. I really don't. Europa is not in the moon. Europa is a moon of Jupiter. And they show us that. They show it like orbiting Jupiter. And they do actually state that it is Europa. So it's not just like a guess, like, oh, he's on Europa. It's like, no, they actually state that he's on the moon that he's on is Europa. But apparently he also left a copy of himself on Mars, just fucking around in like a set parameter too, so everybody thinks he's on Mars. This is another thing that's kind of strange in the show where they have these phone booths, and for whatever reason, they're phone booths, and they're supposed to link up to Doctor Manhattan on Mars, and basically people are supposed to go in there and talk on. I don't know if they pay money or something, but they talk in a little phone booth, and it's supposed to beam messages to Doctor Manhattan. I don't know why these exist. It's very obviously a scam. It's probably a plot reason. Um, okay, yeah, yes, Europa. Yeah, okay, yeah, Europa's a moon. But they just have it in there for a plot reason, and it's even funnier because they have a scene where the Laurie character is just sitting in one and talking on it and pretending she's talking to Doctor Manhattan, and it's one of the more pathetic scenes in the show. But also, yeah, the blue dildo. I forgot about the blue dildo. She has a massive blue dildo that she carries with her everywhere she goes, presumably in a massive suitcase. Because again, she misses Doctor Manhattan. uh, and her character has done an entire 180 in this show. Like, I don't honestly, I don't know how much more there can really be dissected about it. I mean, I can go into like little nitpicky stuff, but for the most part, most of the major things have kind of been discussed. Possible Doomsday Clock series / movie. I mean, they have I could see that being a better route to go with this, because Doomsday Clock is obviously a lot more better received than this piece of garbage. But I don't think they'll do it because I think Warner Brothers wants to keep with the main DC continuity in terms of its movies. Maybe for a TV series, I could see that. If they decide to. But the problem is that this is doing well enough on HBO where it's getting a second season, so I doubt they'll scrap it and go with another series right now. Because again, this has been renewed for a season 2. They've confirmed there is going to be a season 2, and I can only imagine the travesties that this guy is going to be able to do with a whole other season. Even though most of the original Watchmen characters again are dead, aside from Laurie Jupiter and Adrian Veidt, and Dan Draberg, who again is apparently in prison. But yeah, I don't really know where you're going to go from here. I mean, again, they do set up the fact that she has taken Dr. Manhattan's powers through the magical egg that he created for whatever reason. But there's really nothing to go on for the most part. I mean, there's no antagonist anymore. The antagonist has been taken care of, so you'd have to introduce a new one for season 2, unless Sister Knight becomes the antagonist, or something like that. And it kind of wraps most of the stuff up from the main plot line. There's just a bunch of random things that are kind of left hanging. Again, like Lube Man. So it's funny because Lube Man is basically, there's an assistant that goes with Laurie Blake to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to investigate the incidents that are going on, and that assistant is the same guy that plays Lube Man, but we don't know that. Purity actually had to look that up while we were watching the movie because she said he looks like that guy, and I'm like, it could be, but I don't know, because he's wearing a full face mask and silver paint and stuff, so you can't really tell that well. But the body type is very similar. So she looked it up, and it is the same guy. So apparently he's a superhero on the side, but again, they never explain it. They never show him suit up. It's literally a scene where Sister Knight is doing something. She looks behind her and just sees this dude, and I thought it was like a guy in an alien costume at first, because it's like a silver suit with a black goggles. And she looks at him, and he looks at her for a second, and then he just books it, and she chases him. And there's this long chase sequence, and she's about to catch up with him when he takes these 2 ketchup bottles full of lube off of his sides, bathes himself in it, and then proceeds to do a luge slide into a storm drain. And we never see him again. And it's one of those things like, why did that even happen? And I'm not debating about the awesomeness of it. I mean, it's hilarious to watch. But it's just like, why did that happen? And why was it never elaborated on after the fact? Because he literally just disappears, and we don't even know like what he learned. He just disappears, and he doesn't show up again. It just like it's the idea of like what Lube and again, Lube Man's probably just sliding around in the sewers, like the director said, but like there are so many scenes like that you think they're introducing actual plot elements, and then it just never goes anywhere. It's just like, okay, and it's not even stuff like, okay, maybe we could pick it up in a season 2. Like Loop Man, you might be able to pick up in a season 2. I could see him coming back in some capacity in season 2 because he's kind of a fan favorite now, or just a favorite period because most of the stuff in this is god awful. But there's some stuff that you can't. Like there's some stuff about the Asian lady that you're never going to elaborate. Like the elephant, it's like, what are you going to elaborate on with that? They do the thing like, oh, elephants have the like Purity said before, elephants they never forget, that kind of thing, which is a dumb thing to do. Again, without any kind of explanation of why she's hooked up to an elephant. There's so many random things when they do the flashback episodes. That's the other thing is when they do the flashback episode. So they do the flashback, and we basically get to live through Hooded Justice's kind of like youth to his middle age, sort of. We don't really see very much of him. He's kind of in hiding, I guess I would assume, after his wife and kid leave, and until he gets found by Dr. Manhattan. But other than the fact that we apparently know he's living in Captain Metropolis' old house, who again I presume to be dead, since Hooded Justice is supposed to be 105 or something like that in this. And he's just kind of like, they show all of this systematic stuff, which again, it makes sense because it's supposed to take place in the 1940s. So I can understand why there would be certain racist things that people would be doing in the 1940s, especially, I believe it was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is the South. So yeah, it makes sense that you would have stuff like that. Like there's a scene where he almost gets lynched. He becomes a cop. The cops are all in on certain things. A lot of them are racist. So okay, I kind of get that. What loses you is when they make the movie projectors that actually cause black on black crime. That is one of the dumbest things I think that is almost on level with the racism detector, because it's not a racism detector. They literally made a racism detector and a racism emitter.
I like that. So they made back both. To that. Did you talk about anything with that while I was gone?
No, I went over a bunch of shit.
I talk about how they fucked up that Bible quote to be edgy and modern and hoping nobody would catch it?
No, I missed that. You can explain that because you're the one that wound up looking it up.
So let me get the exact quote.
Because they switch up they switch up something for Palestine.
Yeah, let me go grab it. So, what they basically say, give me a second, I'm trying to find that. I wish I had saved that fucking stupid page. And it bugged me because the original quote is from like the original Bible, the Old Testament. And it's basically Egypt and Kor would collapse. This is a whole thing, but it's basically Egypt and Kor, which was next to Egypt, would collapse. Both of them, I believe, I remember, were both big cities back then. So yeah, they changed Kor. I might be saying the place wrong, for Palestine because people would know Palestine, even though Palestine didn't exist back then. Like I actually had to look at because it kept bothering me. Like Palestine wasn't around during the Old Testament. What the fuck? And I looked it up. Oh, here we go. No, damn it! I can't find it. There's so much.
See, that's the other thing. Is like any of the things that they have in this that are even remotely meaningful are, for the 99% of it, is just surface level. Like if you look below that, it's just like it's like a fine silk sheet that's just covering a bed of shit.
Yeah, like, again, that would have been a meaningful quote for a city and people falling if you didn't change it to Palestine because Muslims, maybe? Or are there black people there?
I'm drawing a blank on that one. I have no idea.
Because the original quote from what I read was about the cities collapsing. I can't remember the reason, but they collapsed. Which made sense because the city was being destroyed, or that area was being destroyed. Fair enough. So why did you change it from core to Palestine? It's just, and the director's like, I'm edgy. I'm edgy. This you don't
Pretty
understand.
much. God damn it, Lindelof.
Is it episode 9? Yeah, it was on episode 9.
Yeah, that was in the last episode. It's again, it's just one of those things like they put the message before everything else, and the message is not good.
Yeah. They had no core direction. Gosh, fuck off. I'm trying to find the exact quote because it's bad when someone has to point out to the director that it wasn't Palestine. Because they do this whole
I don't think anybody pointed it out. I think he just didn't care.
Like the other big thing is the whole scene is supposed to be very much Bible, like very much Christian Bible thing. So why would you change that quote? It makes no sense if you're changing it.
Yeah,
and of all people, Asmodeus getting it wrong.
Well, I can understand. Yeah, Ozymandias, because he takes his name from Ramses II, which is again Old Testament. But the weird thing about, like, they introduce religion into this really, really late, and it doesn't even make very much sense why they do it.
Hold on, I think I found the interview. Let me see. Damn it.
We learned more from the interviews than we did from the show.
Yeah, the sad part is that's actually really true. Also, the director doesn't give a shit that he botched everything.
Oh yeah, exactly. The guy would have done a better job if he had literally put in exposition cards like every 5 minutes just to tell people what the fuck was going on.
We got exposition part, and that was probably the more interesting part of this entire stupid thing.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of the funny part about it too. Is like when we did get exposition, it was like, oh, that explains some things. So yeah, I went over a little bit of the plot description. I went over Dead Grandma.
Dead Grandma was just funny. How the hell is
Dead Grandma was just like
dead, or?
Yeah, well, no, that's what we were doing. Like, oh, did she drop something? And then we're like, oh, she's not getting up. Shit, Grandma's dead. I think you were saying at first, it's like, oh, Grandma's gonna die, and then immediately after that, Grandma dies.
And you were just like, what the fuck? And I'm like, okay, I'm making these jokes and they're coming true. That means you have a bad writer, or a writer that stopped giving a shit.
Probably the latter. The other thing is, like, that scene doesn't need to exist. That's the weird part about that whole, like, little exchange that they have, is like, she never needs to meet Grandma. Grandma can just be dead before she was ever born.
Yeah, there was really no meaning to it.
Nothing would have changed. Yeah, there was no meaning to their interaction. It wasn't like she said anything profound to her that did anything. The only thing that she had was that little video of, like, Sister Night, and she said, oh, my parents won't let me watch it. And, like, again, that was established in an earlier scene, so you didn't need Grandma to point that out.
Oh, so Vite is gay, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, according to this,
why does he
never slept with a single woman, so he's gay.
I don't think. See, that's the other thing, though, is I don't think Vite is gay. I think Vite is just what is it when you're not attracted to anything? Asexual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's more of what it is. Because in the original comic, he's not like, he doesn't go after women. He doesn't.
Here
we
go.
Here we go.
I found the quote. I found the quote. In the show, they say Palestine has become a widow for Egypt. The original quote is Korth, I can't say the name again. I don't know how they would have pronounced it back then, but it was Korth has become a widow for Egypt, because at that point that was when Egypt fell. So for all people, for Vite to get that wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody who named himself after an Egyptian pharaoh.
To the point that his password on his computer, which Asian lady manages to figure out, is just Ramses II.
Oh my god, I actually remember that too now, because that was his exact same computer password in the original Watchmen, or in the movie. that was still his password. So he never changed his password after they cracked it.
He's just lazy.
But that's the funniest thing is like he's supposed to be the world's smartest man. He just never changed his password.
I could see that.
Oh, God. That whole scene was just weird though. Like even in that situation, why would you freeze your sperm?
Apparently, they also made a reference to Shazam. Oh, fuck you! That's what they did?
Well, he's another DC property, so I guess they could get away with it.
Lady True refers to Dr. Manhattan as the Big Blue Cheese. This is a surprisingly playful reference to Shazam, whose enemy Dr. Savannah routinely calls him the Big Red Cheese. Incidentally, Lady True does have a tendency to dress like the Savannah of the comics, who favors all white outfits. And who tries to steal Shazam's powers. Fuck you! You're just stealing. You stole from Batman. You stole from Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel. Oh, did J.J. Abrams work on this show?
It wouldn't surprise me at this point. Oh God, it's just there's the more you dig into it, the worse it seems to get, and the lazier it seems to get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did
the main DC heroes exist in the Watchmen universe?
No, it was its own little thing. The Watchmen universe is like off on its own. It never existed within the main DC universe until Doomsday Clock.
Are they trying to say that Dr. Manhattan is Shazam in this universe? Because both are gods technically, but there's
the power level is a god level. Dr. Manhattan is he's a god in the sense that he's thought of as a god as opposed to actually being a religious deity.
Or Shazam has powers of several gods, could be seen as a god, but is a kid, so he was not going to be a god. So I guess they're supposed to be. So I guess Dr. Manhattan's supposed to be, which makes sense since Captain Marvel is the reason Superman exists, because Captain Marvel came before Superman. DC bought the rights to Superman from the two creators and hired them on as a way to kind of beat out the Captain Marvel comics back then and make the company go out of business so that they could buy them. Yes, this is true. Look it up. That shows you a DC fact. I guess
DC's
that makes
bought
sense.
up a ton of small characters over the years.
Well,
even the Watchmen characters.
Back then, that's literally their first big thing was getting that company shut down.
Yep.
Running that entire comic company out of business in the 40s or something.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then they have but the thing is, all the Watchmen characters, the original ones, for the most part, are all based off of mainstream DC characters. Night Owl's based off of Batman. Dr. Manhattan's based off of Superman in a sense. Rorschach's based off the Question. The Comedian, I think, is kind of based off the Joker in a way.
I want to say Plastic Man
because
it makes it funnier.
Plastic Man liked to rape people a lot, apparently.
I mean, if you turned into plastic, what would you do?
I probably scream a lot, freak out on things, hope I'm not made out of petroleum-based plastic.
So I could see Dr. Manhattan being a mix of Shazam and Superman, but I do not think the creator was doing this on purpose with making Lady Trio, Savannah, and everything.
Yeah, I don't believe he's doing that either, because they do all the Christ anagrams with her too, with the frozen squids at the end, when she has you literally see the church in the background, and then the squid goes through her hand like the stigmata.
I don't know. Now I just want to see Jesus get taken out by a squid.
Read a Lovecraft novel.
Holy shit! That was so that was so throw that shit in your face. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, just the idea of that's the other thing. They don't explain half the shit in the show until the last 2 to 3 episodes.
Which, honestly, if they had peppered that in throughout the series, I think it would have been better. Because there's doing things to where you look back and you go, oh, and then there's, oh God, you had to hammer that in just to make it make sense. There's 2 different ways of doing that. This wasn't subtle. I mean, dear God, the Christ scene was the point. They actually put Christ in the background.
Yep.
And then they made
Well, actually, they have like the church stuff a lot of it in the background whenever they do the Rorschachs because they exist in a church. Again, a lot like a weird KKK thing. Uh, and then they have the Holy Bible with Doctor Manhattan. They bring in some church imagery, which is really weird. But the last part of it is just like literally they turn her into like Jesus for no reason.
Yeah, like when we're saying that, we're not kidding. She's doing the pose. They've got Jesus in the background. Yep. They've got the church, everything. Oh, did you mention the newsstand guy? He was another really good character.
Oh, I missed Newsstand Guy.
Newsstand Guy was amazing.
Newsstand. I like to think that he's Cuddly Bear from Littlest Reich.
That made me so happy. Because then he starts shit talking. We're like, Cuddly Bear, you gotta protect yourself.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta get out of there, man. You can't be there when those squids start falling.
You don't have the best luck with this kind of thing.
Well, I mean, he's fine as long as nobody tries to grab onto the back of his shirt. Then all they're left are their hands. Oh God, Newsstand Guy was hilarious though. It was obviously a play on. Excuse me. It was obviously a play on the original Watchmen newsstand, but it was obviously not done nearly as well.
No, but he got some good shit in there. He did. When him and Osmandius, I can never say his name, Osmandius start talking and going at it, that was funny. I was just I want to see them now.
He picks up the paper. Robert Redford is still president?
No, my favorite one. You know, you look like you could be Osmandius, but nah, or however the actual name is. And he's just sure shitting on him.
You can do birthday parties, though.
That made me laugh. I'm like, oh my God. I just want to see these two for an hour.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, like if they actually played this like cartoony and like jokey and did it as a parody, I could see it working in some sense if you took out like all the weird race stuff. But like just the way that it's structured is just not good. Like you can't make a serious narrative out of it. That's unfortunate. Given that the Watchmen is a very good story.
Super secret racists. I wish that was a joke. Lori says it at some point. Oh, that one racist.
No,
the one racist.
She is literally the dumb.
That one racist.
Oh yeah, the wife. Yeah, Don Johnson's wife.
She had a badass going out though. I liked her when she was going out. I laughed at her. I was like, oh God, I kind of want to see her live.
You're gonna kill us.
Stop your fucking monologuing and just kill us. Like she doesn't even let him monologue and shit. She's like, just kill us.
Yeah, she's speaking for the audience. She's literally speaking for the audience.
Yeah, she literally goes, every time she goes to talk, just kill it. Nope, just kill us.
Yep.
I'm just like, fuck yeah. She's sitting there too. Everyone else is trying to run. She's like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's just like, fuck this. Then they turn the senator into black ooze after he puts on the super speedo.
I think it's supposed to be all blood.
It doesn't look like blood.
It looks like bad CJ. And then that's where it gets stupid because, all right, so this is how the cage where Dr. Manhattan works. The blood goes under the cage, which means there's nothing keeping it there. He could literally just go and make it go bye-bye. Like you could lift it up. There's nothing keeping it on the ground. Like you don't see it bolted in the ground in any way. Once you see that blood go through, you realize there's literally nothing keeping it there. But
yeah, like when you first see the cage, you think that there might be some glass or something. There's like some kind of an enclosure, but you can see through it. In reality, it's literally just bars that you could walk in between without even really putting that much effort into it. And that's all it is.
Dr. Manhattan was just done with all this shit.
Yep. Yeah, he just was done. He couldn't decide how to end his marriage, so that was just it.
He was like, well, I've made a mistake in life. All right, coming to go and do the other DC universe. Kill me, please.
And the beat goes on, and the beat goes on, and the beat goes on.
He's going to appear in front of Superman. You don't want to hear the shit I've been through. Hi, buddy.
Hey, you don't have any weird Asian ladies or guys that are obsessed with squids here, do you? No, not really. I like this place.
I want that to be a comic now.
But I think we've talked about this pretty much to death at this point. Ultimately, this is a bad series. It was horrible. I stated that this is on woke levels with something like Cuck. It is not a good narrative
they went
at
straight up cuck
all.
the last few episodes. Like they straight up went cuck. I did laugh my ass off with the fight scene between Dr. Manhattan and I can't remember her name, the wife. And we're not gonna fight. We're not gonna. And he's just laying there like, we're fucking fighting. We're fucking fighting. We're fucking fighting.
Yeah, we're fighting right now.
I'm like, I know so many guys that would be that much of a smart ass.
God, it's just so bad.
I just love that. I literally made the joke about him blackfacing, and then there's Ozymandias making the same joke, and I'm like, damn it, I like this character now.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Like that. Those are the shining moments. Is like the little bits of humor here and there, but you could probably fill it up into like a 5-minute compilation video out of a nearly 9-hour television series.
This was each episode was like really long. It was over an hour for each episode, wasn't it?
It was close. Some of them were over an hour. Some of them were like right up there, but I don't think they had anything that was under 50 minutes, if I remember correctly. So like it was a slog.
Yeah. Then the last episode just became root for the squid.
Root for the squid and power of blue dick. That was really the last episode.
The power of blue dick and eggs will make you God. We knew he was going to become God literally when he said, I'm walking on water. Why the fuck are you walking on water right now? Bring back my kids.
Yep.
This will be important later. And we're both like, oh, God.
God damn it.
By the way, I wasn't making it up. That's actually how that line, literally how that line, that scene went, was her just yelling at him, bring back my kids, because he teleports the kids away. And I'm not being racist with that voice. That's what she sounds like. They made her very Southern. So she's like, I don't, even though she's supposed to be coming from Vietnam, I don't give a damn. You bring back my kids right now.
Yep,
pretty much. You could explain more about the kids not needing to be here, or they get their ass shot up by a Gatling gun or whatever.
Yeah, like the army of Rorschachs that are sitting outside with the laser turret.
It just turned into a video game. It literally turned into a video game at that point.
Yep. Yeah, that one enemy that wouldn't die. But I think we've picked this apart pretty thoroughly. This is not, like I said, this is not a good series. If you're a Watchmen fan, do not watch the series. If you're interested in a good narrative, don't watch the series. If you're a super woke, insane person, go ahead and watch the series. Aside from that, I wouldn't recommend it.
No, if you're looking to, okay, this is why I can recommend the series. Get a bunch of people together. Make sure you have 3 or 4 different people that are huge Watchmen fans. Get some popcorn. Start playing it. And then laugh at their pain. Because it just, after a while, became me going, Mike, did this happen in the comic?
You fucking hate me.
I can show you worse. We're doing Creepshow. We're going to finish off Creepshow. That's the way you can pay me back.
At least Creepshow is enjoyable. I like Creepshow.
That's why I want to go watch something fun before we have to go do the Harley Quinn fucking series. Which Vash is way too excited about that one.
That can't be as bad as this. It honestly can't.
Yeah, he kept complaining it was really bad until I explained more of the series to him, and now he thinks that we got the bad hand.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. I really wouldn't. So, with that, I will end this stream. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And until the next time when I get tortured by a television show, or maybe I'll get a good one next time. Who knows? After Harley Quinn, and maybe the rest of my sanity goes out the window. Thank you very much, and good night.
Someone owes me a drink.